Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of Around the Lake. And today I have David Hedges. He is the president of Bookman Bright. And David, I've known you for quite a while. You're one of our huge sponsors of the Christmas holiday after hours that we have over the Brick House Tavern, a McIntosh law firm, and your agency which is right there in the same building with that. What's it called? What's the facility called that you're in?
So we are over in the Brick House Tavern building, is what I refer to it as. With
Cotton
Nick.
Mill. That's what I'm thinking of. The Cotton Mill, right?
Yeah, the Cotton Mill. Yeah, so Cotton Mill. Everybody knows Macintosh. Everybody knows Brick House, right? So I just tell people I'm sandwiched in between those two. And then, because when I say, Delberg Street, they're kind of like, Delberg Street, yeah. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we know Bob McIntosh. Oh yeah, we know Nick over at Brick House Tavern. So yeah, so that's where we're located.
Located right there in the heart of Davidson and the old cotton mill. And again, yeah, Brick House Tavern, McIntosh Law Firm. Most people around here know where that is. You again are a sponsor of our Christmas holiday after hours. You always provide the hot chocolate in December and little tiny things like that. So thank you for participating in that. So
It's our pleasure.
You're the president and CEO of Bookman Bright, and I was asking you earlier. I knew that you created the firm, and I'm going like, okay, Bookman Bright. Did he buy an agency? Is that a family name? So tell me a little bit about the story of Bookman Bright.
Okay, so I essentially, again, I wordsmith the name is the short answer, but I'll give you a little detail on that because I bounced around family names and, all kinds of things, right? And I love wordsmithing things. So that's, kind of in my wheelhouse. So I literally spent a couple of weeks on playing around with words. I wanted one that had like positivity, right? So something that was uplifting and positive. And then I wanted kind of a rhythm, right? So phonetics. Obviously two B's, right? Bookman Bright. And then again, I put a little spin on it. So there was a Seinfeld episode where Jerry almost went to jail because he had an outstanding book fine. And it was Mr. Bookman from the library that came to, arrest him. And so, the word bookman, if you look it up in the dictionary, right, is, conveys, smarts and intelligence and that sort of thing, right? And so, having that Seinfeld connection was kind of fun to me. So then I just went, looking for another positive word, right? And as I literally read the dictionary when I'm going through these things, right? So when I came across, Bright, I'm like, well, that's simple, right? Bookman Bright. And that's how the name was born. So, very simple. Yeah.
Great little story. I know you're a financial advisor, and some of the things that you do is tax planning, estate planning, retirement, managing your financial portfolio. But I dumbed it down. Tell me the services you provide.
Okay, so the end game for most people, Bill, is to create meaningful income in retirement, right? So whether they're already retired and looking at the tax consequences and where the income's coming from, or where somebody's kind of on-ramping onto retirement. So, that's the biggie. Are people trying to figure out what that paycheck, quote unquote, looks like in the end and where the money is going to come from and the most effective way to do that. So I would say that is probably, one of the core competencies that I have is, planning that and structuring that and developing strategies around how to get that income that's needed, whether that's in a few years or, 10 years or whatever that looks like, right? So now, having said that, people come into all kinds of situations and circumstances, right? So, they'll either inherit money or sell a business or, change jobs and that sort of thing. So in and around just the core, figuring out what retirement income is going to look like, there's all that quote unquote stuff, right? And then it's beneficiaries, and then it's estate planning. And I mean, there's just so many things that we try and compartmentalize it and just do one thing at a time because everybody has different needs and everybody's situations are unique. And so, within that, I know that you're probably going to ask me now, who is it that you work with? So let me segue into that by saying that I have we're specialists, right? We're not generalists. So we're specialists. So we specialize in 3 distinct markets. One of those is business owners, right? I've been a business owner my entire life. my family were business owners their entire lives, right? I was born and bred in business. And so business owners are the first specialty that we have. The second specialty that we have, and this may have come a little bit from my mother being in business. She was half of the family business, right? And so I deal with women that are single, divorced, and widowed. And again, within that, of course, business owners, that are women. And then the third one is busy executives that are within 3 years of retirement or already retired. So 3 distinct markets. And as I tell people, you can't be jack of all and master of none, right? So being a generalist, especially in this business, in my opinion, it's just suicide, right? You have to know your clients, know their circumstances, and understand those specialties and those demographics if you're really, really going to do a good job. So I woke up one day, this is, years ago, and I'm looking at my client base. And I'm like, you know what, for whatever reason, I'm attracting these people, right? These are the people that I kind of jive with and that are my best clients. And so, that's who I target, my message to are those 3 demographics.
David, I'm surprised still at the number of people sometimes into their 30s and 40s, which have not set aside a savings. They have not started their retirement planning. They're trying to make ends meet. But if someone watching this video has not selected a retirement planner, a financial advisor, what things should they look for in selecting that? Because that's a very personal relationship.
Very much so. As I tell people, money is near and dear to most of our hearts, right? So, and on a serious note, it affords you a lifestyle, right? Money does not make you happy, as the old adage goes, Bill. It just doesn't, right? But what it does do is it affords you opportunity and more choices, right? It opens doors, right? It allows you to live a certain lifestyle, right? And it allows you to make other people's lives better, right? When you donate and that sort of thing. So what I would tell someone to get started and just to, again, ground floor stuff is, first of all, look at what your outflow is, what I affectionately call your monthly burn rate, right? What is it costing you to float the boat, right? To live, right? And then take a look at what's coming in. How do you get that, right? Is it running your business, right? Or are you employed, right? Or are you a W-2 employee? So figure out those 2 basic things. And then from there, kind of, look at where the money is going, right? You only have X amount to work with, right? So where is that money going, right? And are you being, frugal? And I don't mean frugal to the extent that you're acting like a pauper and not having a decent lifestyle. What I'm saying is, don't waste money on frivolous things, right? And just get I'm a big advocate of systems and processes. So get some sort of a system and process together. Just get started, right? Cindy is a big Peloton person, right? So she rides Peloton at home, at least, once, twice a day, right? She's been doing it for years. She was one of the first adopters of Peloton. And as they say, when you get on the Peloton, it's like, congratulations, the hardest part is over. Guess what the hardest part is, right? Getting started, showing up. It is. Yeah. That's the hardest part. So just start something, right? $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever it is, just get a little something going in a Roth IRA or your 401k or whatever it is, something that you necessarily won't miss. But then from there, build on it, right? So get that system and process in place, get used to it and be like, okay, I didn't really miss these dollars. Let me amp it up a little bit. Right. And so those are some of the first steps to take. And plus there's an emotional piece of that makes you feel good, right? You're doing something for your future. So there's value in the real money, right? But there's also value in just the feel good factor that comes along with doing that. So yeah, that's what I would say.
David, anytime you're doing with retirement planning, you're in it for the long haul. So it's not short-term gain, or at least most people aren't for short-term gain. And so this whole thing with the current economy where you have all these tariffs and Trump is trying to reset what the United States is paying on outgoing tariffs as much as what we're placing tariffs on. But we've seen a dramatic shift in the market at first down, now back up. Yesterday, market was up about 1,100 points. And what most financial advisors tell their clients is, don't panic. I mean,
Well,
don't
never
panic.
panic, right?
When it gets low, buy. That's it. That's the perfect time.
Right.
Buy. But what are your perspectives on what's going on with the economy as we speak right now, May of 2025?
All right. So I'll give you the macro perspective, which is, again, tons of cause and effect all the time, right? Political, geopolitical, economic, right? Just all this stuff, right? So you're always going to have that. You're always going to have uncertainty. And so, and the market hates uncertainty, of course, right? But you have to, as an investor, take advantage of uncertainty. But you also have to keep going back to the macro piece of this, keep all of that in mind, right? Look at some of the signs and some of the things that are going on around you. And again, I'm just going to keep in mind that not many people are like this, right? That fit into this financial situation. But you look at a Berkshire Hathaway and you look at 334 billion, in T-bills on the balance sheet. Okay. Warren Buffett, can't find anything that he, in his own mind, is a good value, right? Not that's on sale, but that's a good value, right? It's been difficult for him. And I'm just going to keep in mind, I've got a finance degree, right? So I'm going to dig in just a little bit, not much, right? But you have to look at some of this data and say that one of the leading economic indicators that I use for looking at how expensive the market is a price to sales ratio, right? Mm-hmm. That is how much somebody is willing to pay for just $1 worth of sales. Sales, not profit, just sales. We're at the second highest point still that we've been in 25 years. Mm-hmm. People right now in the S&P are paying up to $3 for $1 worth of sales, right? And so again, when you look at these types of ratios, I'm not saying don't buy, right, and don't invest, but just keep all of that in mind, especially in a market where you've got good yields on fixed income. I mean, Bill, we're at, 4.5%, 5%, right? I mean, in a number of places, corporate bonds, right? T-bills getting, 4.3 on the 90-day, all of these things where just, again, keep that in mind when you're positioning your money. Keep your duration, right? The amount of time you have to invest in mind. Is it 3 years, right? Is it 5, 10, whatever? Because that plays into it. So it's not necessarily a quick and simple, easy answer, because you have to factor, a few things into it. Again, macroeconomics, your own time frame, right? Your own risk tolerance, right? If your portfolio goes down 20% in drawdown, not that you lost it, but it went down, right? You had $1 million and now it's worth $800,000. How do you feel about that? And you ought to see my clients' faces when I ask them that. It's like this, right? So 20%, when I say 20%, here's the funny part. They're kind of like, oh yeah, David, 20%, I can handle that. And I'm like, okay, let's roll with that for a second. So you have $1 million and your statement now says $800,000. How's that feel? Oh, wait a minute. Wait, the 20% was fine. Oh yeah, once you put some math to it, it's like, oh yeah, once it's real money. So again, just keeping all of that in mind. So again, going back to the macroeconomic piece, just be aware, right? Be aware, pick and choose how you're investing your money. And, if you are a do-it-yourselfer, because I meet actually plenty of do-it-yourselfers, right? They come into my office, chat with them. It's like, David, I'm just here. I want to pay you for your time. I want to talk to you about some of the things I'm doing. Are these right? It's kind of like a little checkup, right? It's like, am I doing all the right stuff, right? Based upon what I'm trying to accomplish. And of course, then I have other people that are like, David, just do it for me, right? Just, I don't want to fiddle with this stuff. So, yeah.
David, I know your firm's located in Davidson. Do you and your wife live here?
We do. We live over in River Run, if you're familiar with where that neighborhood is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, live right over there on River Ford Drive. So we've been there since 2016. Used to live in the St. Albans neighborhood. So used to be there. And then the head count got too big and we had to expand.
What do you enjoy most about living in Davidson and working there too?
So I like the people and the intimacy of the area.
Right.
I grew up in upstate New York. I came down here in 96 from upstate New York in the foothills of the Adirondacks, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so grew up in a little town called Johnstown, New York, which is a little old mill town. Johnstown and Gloversville, they were the twin cities, right? And so I like I like that intimacy, right? And knowing people and being able to go to the post office and, and see people and say hello. But I also like obviously the proximity of, having a Charlotte, right? A metro area, whatever. So having what I consider to be kind of a bedroom community, along with, again, the Cornelius and Huntersville and just this general area. I like the feel, right? I like the feel. I like the people. I like doing business because, there's more of a helpful atmosphere that exists with that, right? People are more, they feel like they're rooting for you a little bit more. And if you get in just a very large area, I went to school in Boston, right? And so you get in an area like that, it's just, you're just a number, right? You're anonymous. Yeah, you're just, you're part of the head count. So I like that, right? I like the geography, obviously, right? The parks and the recs and, lots of stuff, the lake, right? So, yeah.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. What's David Hedges do for fun?
For fun. What I've been doing for fun, like the last X amount of years, is honestly being involved in playing the sports that my kids are playing, right? Yeah. I get all these invites, Bill, for, my buddy, let's play pickleball, right? Let's do this, whatever, and I'm like, as much as I'd love to, because I love everything, right? I like downhill skiing. I like, water skiing, all the stuff, right? I'm just like all of it. But in these last, probably 8 years, I would say, 8-10 years, it's really been about all the sports that my kids are playing, right? Sure. We have 3 boys. So Sam, the oldest, he plays tennis. He's captain of the Lake Norman charter tennis team this year, right? Wow. So we started playing tennis a number of years ago, right? And I love watching him get better, right? And I'd like to give myself a little bit of credit for that. He could probably beat me now, but and then middle son plays soccer, plays lacrosse, swims. Youngest son plays some soccer, bike riding, mountain biking. I got him snow skiing for the first time, right, last year. Mm-hmm. Went to Appalachian up there. So, that's what I do for fun, right? And I love tech. So my youngest is a big tech guy, right? So I do that for fun. And, Cindy and I go to the wineries up here in Yadkin Valley. We went to they have a herb festival every year. And we went to the herb festival just this last week, and I actually, don't tell anybody, Bill, but I took Friday afternoon off. And so we went up there, did the herb festival, right? And so, yeah, there's so much opportunity everywhere in business, for fun, whatever. So, that's what I do.
Well, David, I want to thank you for taking time today to talk about your profession and what you're doing, and also sharing a little bit of insight into the tariffs. I want to thank Joe Vagnone. He's a local business broker. He's a presenting sponsor of Around the Lake. And David, thank you very much for your involvement in the Chamber of Commerce.
Of course. Thank you, Bill. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.